Kalashanji Morning Srimad Bhagavatam. My name is Nanda-braja, and we'll be reading from Canto 2, Chapter 2. We'll be going through verse 1 through 7 and speaking on verse 5. We'll start with our invocations. Thank you. Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna
Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Kalasanji Radha Kalasanji Shri Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Kalasanji ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Sarasvatim Vyasyam Tato Jayam Yudirayat Nasta Prayasha Ebrash Abreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki Omigantamarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Shakshuran Militam Yena. Oh my gosh. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Woo. Okay. Canto 2. So this is the start of a new chapter. Canto 2, Chapter 2. We just spoke about the first steps of God realization, and now we're going to the Lord in the heart. Okay. First text. Drista, that microphone's working right there. Would you mind, or having somebody on the table speak translation number 1? Let me go. Oh, did it not turn on?
Hare Krishna.
There we go. Woohoo!
Text number 1. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, formerly prior to the manifestation of the cosmos, Lord Brahma, by meditating on the Virat Rupa, regained his lost consciousness by appeasing the Lord. Thus, he was able to rebuild the creation as it was before.
What does it mean by regained his lost consciousness? No? Yeah, he forgot. He's forgetful. Who is Lord Brahma?
Creator.
Yes, creator of the universe, right? In control over the mode of passion. So much responsibility, right? Wow. And even Lord Brahma becomes forgetful. So don't worry if you become forgetful. It's okay. Because what did Lord Brahma do to become remembering? Vrat Rupa. What is the Vrat Rupa?
The universal form.
Universal forms. So in the previous chapter, we just spoke about Krishna and his universal form. And Sukadeva Goswami goes through so many different ways to see the beauty in the nature and really recognize that it is from Krishna, and it is Krishna. And so this is the Brahman realization.
And now we're going to the Lord in the heart, and we're going to Paramatma realization. Krishna's in your heart. Translation 2, please, somebody.
The way of presentation of the Vedic sounds is so bewildering that it directs the intelligence of the people to meaningless things like the heavenly kingdoms. The conditioned souls hover in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish in any tangible happiness in such places.
What does this mean? Have you ever heard of the phrase, the flowery words of the Vedas? Have you heard this phrase before? Yeah? Yeah, this is similarly speaking about the flowery words of the Vedas. The Vedas are speaking on knowledge, right? Not all knowledge. We could literally fill up the Vedas with, it's actually uncomprehendable, but we could say, this whole complex, like 3 of them, I mean, actually that's not even like accurate, The point is, I'm trying to explain is, the Vedas or knowledge is so vast. And in the Vedas is so many different understandings. And somebody who was reading the Vedas without a spiritual master who's guiding them towards the ultimate purpose of life could easily become distracted by so many things in the Vedas. And for one thing, right, Sukadeva Goswami is saying right here, is that they could become attracted to the meaningless things like the heavenly kingdoms. We hear heavenly kingdoms and we're like, wait a minute, what? That sounds fun. That sounds nice. But Sukadeva Goswami is saying that, the Vedas are going to can even become bewildering and speaking and get people attracted to heavenly kingdoms. The conditioned soul hovers in the dreams of such heavenly illusions. Oh, what would it be like? Oh, how life would be so grand, right? But actually they do not relish any tangible happiness in such places. Why does the spirit soul not relish any tangible happiness in such places? I like it when people go out on limbs.
Okay. Well, if there's no bhakti, then our soul may not be fully pleased. I don't know if they can have bhakti on heavenly kingdoms. But
what is bhakti attracting us to?
The Supreme Lord.
The Supreme Person, who is by nature completely
Everything.
Say what?
Everything? I don't know.
He's everything, but he's completely spiritual, Satchidananda, right? So the heavenly planets aren't spiritually natured. They are material nature still. However, we understand that through bhakti we can take material nature and transfer it to spiritual nature, right? But the point is that because it's of material nature, there's 4 things that ultimately the spirit soul just is like a fish out of water when we experience these things. Can you name one, Drista?
What thing?
4 things, the 4 miseries of material nature, that are of material nature that we can't, because of these things. Birth, right? Okay, that gets the ball rolling. What? Birth? Death. Old age. And? And? Birth, death, old age, and Govinda? Disease. Even in the heavenly planets, these 4 things are coming. So we can't ultimately be happy because we're like a fish out of the water when we're in these situations. Okay, number 3, please.
For this reason, the enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life, while in the world of names. He should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing.
It's an interesting saying, minimum necessity of life, while in the world of names. So, interesting. What does that mean? Any thoughts? I look down and here's Srila Prabhupada.
I have an idea.
Okay, go ahead, Drista.
Just that there's so many like mundane and temporary names in this world, and they all are just noises. They're all just material sound vibrations. But the only like actual true name is the Supreme's names.
Yeah. I look down and right here, Srila Prabhupada said, the whole material creation is a jugglery of names only. In fact, it is nothing but a bewildering creation of matter like earth, water, and fire. So within these names is nothing but material nature. Things like, it's kind of hard to understand that even in these names are only the products of this earthly planet, like earth, fire, wind, air, water, ether. Okay. Number 4, please.
When there are ample earthly plats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of variety of utensils? When there is ample of covering or the skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? Charani Diksha Prasanti. What is the word?
Sanskrit?
Yeah.
Of this verse?
Yeah.
Tiranihi. Satyam kisatu kima kishpo prayasher. Go ahead. Okay.
Satyam Kishto. What is that? I forgot the verse.
Kim kashpo prayasyer. Bahu.
Bahur
Siksari hi.
Kim upabanere kim.
Yes.
Satyanjalo kim.
Puradanya patra. Digvalabalyadyo sati kim dukaya.
Hey, Digvalad means you have a bark of trees. Why are you in the clothes?
So, I can only imagine that when a Sankirtan devotee who's living out of a van or a brahmachari hears this, it's like nectar. It's like, oh my, yes, this is all we need. And the grihasta is like, huh? Oh, not all grihastas, but anyways. Right? But the point is that it's tugging at the nature of like a Sankirtan devotee, somebody who's naturally kind of renounced and stuff like that, or a brahmachari, and you hear this, you're like, yeah, that's what I should be doing, you know? It's like telling a Kshatriya, like we're preparing for battle, like yeah. But when the brahmachari or the Sankirtan devotee hears Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 4, they're like, yeah. Text 5, go ahead, please, with translation.
Are there no torn clothes lying on the common road? Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms in charity? Do the rivers, being dried up, no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth?
Sorry? 225. We'll come back to that verse and we're going to read through the purport. So let's go to 6, please.
Thus being fixed, one must render service unto the super soul situated in one's own heart by his omnipotency, because he is the almighty personality of Godhead, eternal and unlimited. He is the ultimate goal of life, and by worshiping him, one can end the cause of conditioned state of existence.
So he says, so here we go, we got super soul, the Lord within the heart, right? And by his omnipotence, he is in every living entity's heart. Every living entity. Matter of fact, he's also in every atom. It's amazing. Okay, 7.
Who else but the gross materialist will neglect such transcendental thought? and take to the non-permanent names only,
Mm.
seeing the mass of people fallen in the river of suffering as the consequence of accruing the result of their own work.
Again, Sukadev Goswami, just a few texts later, goes back to the name, encouraging us to speak of, to chant Krishna's holy name, the name that is not temporary, a name that's not temporary, that can give us all satisfaction. Okay, let's go back to text 5, please, in Sanskrit. (225)
Sanskrit chiranti hi kati nashanti dishanti bhiksham na eva angri parad prit sarito. So that's it. Chirani kim pati nashanti dishanti bhiksham na eva angri paraprit sarito api ashushyana ruddha guhakim ajito avatina upashanam kashmad bhajanti kavayo duramada bhuttam.
Prabhu, would you mind going one line at a time so everybody can repeat and we can all enjoy this Sanskrit?
Chirani kim pati nashanti
Kim pati santi
dishanti bhiksham na eva angri paraprit
vishanti bhiksham navapriya parabrat
sarito api ashushyana
sarito piya shashyanan
ruddha guhakim
pradhua guha kim
ajito avatina upashanan
ajito vati nopashananan
kasmad bhajanti kavayo dhanadurmad andham.
kasmad bhajanti kavyo danadam radhanana. I believe this is, the meter goes, if, chara, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Charani kim patita satanti dashanti bish.
The reason I'm breaking it, Prabhu, because
Just yeah, go ahead.
the reason I'm breaking this because there is every verse is chirani kim patina shanti. Means then dishanti bhiksham. So every verse has a meaning. But are there any torn chiranti hi kim patina shanti means there is are there any torn clothes? Chiranti hi patina shanti. Pati means on the way. Is there any torn clothes? So I'm this period over there.
Very nice.
Bhiksham, you know.
Okay. So, charani kim patahina satanti jasanti bhashaksham. Oh, that's just so you give the kim patati nati bhashanti bhiksham charani kim pati sanasanti dashani bhiksham. Vaganyapi parabharat sarito piyashishan. Rodha guhaya kimajito vijanapashananan. Kasmad bhajanti kaviyo danadur madanyan. Anybody else like to repeat? Chant?
Chirani kim patina santi dishanti bhiksham.
Chirani kim pati nasanti deshanti bhiksham.
Naivan grihi papadabrita sarito piyashunan.
Naganari parabrita saripi asushan.
Rudha guha kim ajito vati no pasanam.
Rudha guha kim ajito vati napashananan.
Kasmad bhajanti kavayo danadur madandan.
Kasmad bhajanti kavayo danadur madadanan.
Charani kim patina santi tisanti bhiksham.
Charani kim pati panasanti dishanti bhiksham.
Naivan gripa paraparata saroti piyasuyan.
Navanagrapya parabrata sarito piya shushan.
Ruda guha kim ajito vati no pasanam.
Ruda guha kimajito vati nopashananan.
Kashma bhajanti kavayo danadur madandan.
Kasmad bhajanti kavayo danadur madadadan. Okay, very nice. Let's go right to the translation. Are there no torn clothes
lying on the common road? Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms and charity? Do the rivers, being dried up, no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by the hard-earned wealth? Please repeat. Are there no torn clothes lying on the common road? Do the trees which exist for maintaining others no longer give alms and charity? Do the rivers, being dried up, no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the Almighty Lord not protect the fully surrendered souls? Why then do the learned sages go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? This is quite a long purport, but let's get started. Translation read, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Will somebody start to read that, please? I may stop, because it's so long, I may stop after a few sentences. So just a heads up. Go ahead, Bhakti Avatar.
The renounced order of life is never meant for begging or living at the cost of others as a parasite. According to the dictionary, a parasite is a sycophant who lives at the cost of society without making any contribution to that society. The renounced order is meant for contributing something substantial to society and not depending on the earnings of the householders. On the contrary, acceptance of alms from the householders by a bona fide mendicant is an opportunity afforded by the saint for the tangible benefit of the donor. In the Sanatana Dharma institution, alms given to the mendicant is part of a householder's duty, and it is advised in the scriptures that the householder should treat the mendicants as their family children, and should provide them with food, clothing, etc., without being asked. Pseudo-mendicants, therefore, should not take advantage of the charitable disposition of the faithful householders. The first duty of a person in the renounced order of life is to contribute some literary work for the benefit of the human being in order to give him realized direction towards self-realization. Amongst the other duties in the renounced order of life of Srila Sanatana, Srila Rupa, and the other Goswamis of Vrindavan, the foremost duty discharged by them was to hold learned discourses amongst themselves at Seva Kunja, Vrindavan, the spot where Sri Sri Radha Damodar temple was established by Srila Jiva Goswami, and where the actual Samadhi tombs of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami are laid. For the benefit of all in human society, they left behind their immense literatures of transcendental importance. Similarly, all the acharyas who voluntarily accepted the renounced order of life aimed at benefiting human society and not at living a comfortable or irresponsible life at the cost of others. However, those who cannot give any contribution should not go to the householders for food. For such mendicants, asking for bread from the householders are an insult to the highest order.
Right there. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada is making it very clear that to get, you must give, right? And especially for the mendicant or the spiritually advanced soul, that they should be giving in these certain ways by giving spiritual knowledge. What is the ways that Srila Prabhupada said already, ways that a mendicant or a spiritually realized person should be giving their own charity, or how should they be helping society? What's that? What's that? Just say. Books, right? Books, right? And we understand that Srila Prabhupada read so many books. Rupa Goswami wrote so many books. So many of the acharyas wrote books. What's the other thing that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here that the mendicant can do to give to society?
Hold lectures.
Yes, discourses, right? So, by writing books and giving discourse. And by that, we can understand that nobody, everybody's duty is to give, like I mentioned before, and we're giving in different ways. And the mendicant, or the spiritually advanced soul, is giving in the ways of spiritual knowledge. And therefore, the householder who's engaged in work for their family and maintaining should also give part of that work to the people who are giving spiritual knowledge. So it's actually a very nice system of working together so that people can become spiritually advanced. Because when the householder gives to the mendicant or the spiritually advanced person, they're actually getting purity from that. And then not only are they giving that charity, but they're also receiving the spiritual knowledge. Okay, go ahead. Would somebody else like to continue with Sukadev Goswami?
Sukadev Goswami gave this warning especially for the mendicants who adopt this line of profession to solve their economic problems. Such mendicants are in abundance in the age of Kali. When a man becomes a mendicant, willfully or by circumstances, he must be of firm faith and conviction that the Supreme Lord is the maintainer of all living beings everywhere in the universe. Why, then, would he neglect the maintenance of the surrendered soul who is % engaged in the service of the Lord? A common master looks to the necessities of his servant, so how much more would the all-powerful, all-opulent Supreme Lord look after the necessities of life for a fully surrendered soul? The general rule is that a mendicant devotee will accept a simple small loincloth without asking anyone to give it in charity. He simply salvages it from the rejected torn cloth thrown in the street. When he is hungry, he may go to a magnanimous tree which drops fruit, and when he is thirsty, he may drink the water from the flowing river. He does not require to live in a comfortable house, but should find a cave in the hills and not be afraid of jungle animals, keeping faith in God who lives in everyone's heart. The Lord may dictate to tigers and other jungle animals not to disturb his devotee. Haridas Thakur, a great devotee of Lord Sri Chaitanya, used to live in such a cave, and by chance a great venomous snake was a co-partner of the cave. Some admirer of Thakur Haridas, who had to visit the Thakur every day, feared the snake and suggested that the Thakur leave that place. Because his devotees were afraid of the snake and that they were regularly visiting the cave, Thakur Haridas agreed to the proposal on their account. But as soon as this was settled, the snake actually crawled out of its hole in the cave before everyone present and left the cave for good. By the diction of the Lord, who lived also within the heart of the snake gave preference to Haridas and decided to leave the place and not disturb him. So this is the tangible example of how the Lord gives protection to a bona fide devotee like Thakur Haridas. According to the regulations of Sanatana Dharma institution, one is trained from the beginning to depend fully on the protection of the Lord in all circumstances. The path of renunciation is recommended for acceptance by one who is fully accomplished and fully purified in his existence. This stage is described also in the Bhagavad Gita 16.5 as Daivi Sampat. A human being is required to accumulate Davi Sampat or spiritual assets. Otherwise, the next alternative, Asuri Sampat or material assets, will overcome him disproportionately. And thus one will be forced into an entanglement of different miseries of the material world. A sannyasi should always live alone without company, and he must be fearless. He should never be afraid of living alone, although he is never alone. The Lord is residing in everyone's heart, and unless one is purified by the prescribed process, one will feel that he is alone. But a man in the renounced order of life must be purified by the process. Thus he will feel the presence of the Lord everywhere, and he will have nothing to fear, such as being without any company. Everyone can become a fearless and honest person if his very existence is purified by discharging the prescribed duty for each and every order of life. One can become fixed in one's prescribed duty by faithful oral reception of Vedic instructions and assimilation of the essence of Vedic knowledge by devotional service to the Lord.
Thank you. The sum bonum of these 7 verses in this purport, you can understand that simple living and high thinking. Srila Prabhupada coined this
coined this phrase, simple living, high thinking. Even the animals, the birds, the insects, are getting their needs met. Some people, some atheists would say, or they say, by instinct, the bird knows where to fly, or the fish, the salmon, knows exactly where to go, where it was born, or it knows exactly where food, or the ants know by instinct. We call this instinct, right, in science. But the fact of the matter that is Krishna, is Paramatma, is within the heart, giving direction even to the ant, even to the fish, and even to the bird. So what to speak of us who have some intelligence and able to give some appreciation to the Lord for the things that He's providing for us. So there is no worry. There is no need for over-endeavoring for things. Does this mean that somebody should not work, that they should sit back and do nothing? No, that would also be disingenuous to their own self. Because in this world we must work, and intrinsically we must serve. And so in the service that we do, you can see we have our natural instincts. There's so many people doing so many things. But often what we do is, within that work, we cause so many distresses in that because it gives us some importance. If I have to try really hard at this, it must mean that I'm important. Because it's, I'm putting so much effort. And that's okay. But when somebody turns their focus on, I'm going to work hard for Krishna, then actually what happens is, over time, it doesn't become so hard, it becomes enjoyable, and it's no longer work. You're like, oh, this is my nature, this is my enjoyment, this is what I do. Therefore, I don't even have to work hard. I get up automatically because this is the thing that makes my heart sing. And that's where we're trying to get as devotees, is the work we're doing is in line with our nature, in a way that we're doing it with such joy and happiness to offer it to Krishna, that we're literally every step is a dance and every word is a song. So we got 8:24. Is there any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? Please, Bhakta Avatar Prabhu.
I have a question. It's described, I got from the gist of the purport is that one who is living a life of renunciation from material things shouldn't really have the consciousness of just living for free on the money from others. So I'm just curious, sometimes when we're out preaching, maybe you meet a really favorable person and you may say, hey, have you ever thought about, living in a temple, free food and free rent? So sometimes that's our first line of introducing this to other people. And then is that bad to say that? Because now that's maybe their first thing is, man, I'm struggling, I don't have to pay anything and I can eat for free. So
you said free food and what?
Free food, free rent.
Free rent.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So our free food isn't just free food. It's free prasadam. Yeah. So we're actually engaging them in devotional service. Because of the consciousness of people, sometimes we have to use means to engage them. We shouldn't be dishonest, right? It would be dishonest if you were to say it's free and then all of a sudden you charge money for it when they get there. Well, actually it's donation based or something like that, and they're like, wait a minute, I thought it was free, but it's not really a donation based thing. It's more of if you don't give that donation, then you don't get to eat. Okay, that's dishonesty. However, sometimes we're using means to attract people that engage them in service. And so that's the devotee's ultimate purpose, is to be engaged in service and engage others in service. And so that's a big part of the purport also, right? Is that Srila Prabhupada's saying, don't just live for free. Engage in service. Engage others in service. That's the mendicant's purpose, is to engage others in the listening and hearing of Vedic or of Scripture.
Similarly, the householder can not just engage in their work, but also their engagement is that, in a sense, the householder can feel like I'm giving to the mendicant, and so that they can be sustained, so that they can go preach too. So I'm helping them engage, and they can listen, right? One of the biggest things we can do as devotees is hear from others about spiritual subjects. So you should ask yourself in your heart, are you being dishonest? And if you're not, change it up. But the point is that the essence of it is to engage others in service in a honest means, and that is important, and that should be done. What do you think?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. That's a quality of a Brahmin is truthfulness. So I was hearing from a devotee that one time while we're preaching, we should also be as honest as possible when it comes to distributing books and things. I'm curious though, like, what if somebody's like as like a candidate to move into the ashram? You know, sometimes we may say that, but then they may have this mentality of, oh, I just get to live. So like, how do we be truthful, but also be so we also make it attractive for that person who's favorable? Because if they say, oh yeah, you move in and you wake up really early, and that might that line of free rent and food for ashram candidate at least is like it's like they might bite on that, but like then they might have an interesting. Yeah. According to this purport, not the right consciousness of entering that lifestyle.
Well, let's just be honest. They're not going to come with the right consciousness completely, right? Because they're coming with attachments, right? So in Krishna House, we have a couple things to protect ourselves from that. We have a memorandum of understanding. These are the things that we're going to expect from you. You're going to have to get up in the morning early, and you're going to have to be at worship at 5:30. That's when we start Krishna House. You're going to have to chant japa 8 rounds a day at the minimum. And you're going to have to follow the 4 regular principles. So that's the first thing, is we have an understanding of the things that need to be there to give a nice atmosphere for spiritual realization. Because that's what the ashram's for. It's for spiritual realization. So if you do these things, we have found that it will make a nice atmosphere for your learning and for others' learning. Second of all, you give them an opportunity to come without with strings attached. For instance, why don't you come for a week, try it out, see what you think, and then we'll go from there. So you're like, hey, you have to stay for 3 months and rinse do, No, you just say, okay, come try it out. What do you think about those two things?
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Is putting it all on the table if they have interest.
Yeah, sometimes we don't put it all on the table at the very beginning because it might just be part of the conversation, right? Like you're on books and you're like, hey, you want to come to the place? We're going to do this. We're going to ask you 8 rounds. And like, what's 8 rounds? You're going to have to get up at 5:30 for Mangala Arti. What's Mangala Arti? No. We're trying to, when we're out meeting people, we're trying to seek the seekers, right? We're trying to find the seekers. And when we find them, then yes, we're going to start to develop a relationship and then start to speak about the thing that we're interested in, hoping that they're interested in too, because we're giving spiritual life, and then the relationship grows. So that's one thing that in Krishna House at least we do, is we try not to just be like, hey, come on in. No, let's build a relationship, kind of understand, where you're at mentally and emotionally, health-wise, and then go from there. Not that it doesn't happen where people come like, hey, I want to move in, We've started this program called Monk for a Weekend. So we give people an opportunity to come Saturday and Sunday, and then they kind of get a little taste of what's going on. Yeah. What are your programs like?
There's in Austin. There's time for book distribution, but I spend a lot of time doing artis and stuff. So I didn't have such like a preaching. Bigger picture preaching like that.
So what do you do? What do you do now?
Right now, I'm actually I'm moving to New Dwarka.
New Dwarka.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. And they have an ashram there?
Yes.
Yeah. Very nice. So we have some stuff from Krishna House. If you guys need any help, we're so willing to help other ashrams and stuff like that. Things that we've learned. Kalakanta Prabhu has been doing it for 13 years. Anyways. Krishna House And he's learned some stuff, and we have some classes and stuff. We have a program called Nitai Corp, and it gives an understanding of ashrams and the history of ashrams in ISKCON and the things that we're doing to learn from our, lessons and stuff. So anyways, if you're interested in that, you can ask myself or Dristadumna Prabhu. Okay. Any other, well, you know what, it's 8:32. If you have any burning questions or burning comments, we're going to take Prashadam over in this hall right here, and we can discuss them. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol.